I grew up 4 blocks from Lincoln Center. As someone who loved theater so much, I used to walk by and see the long lines into the opera and long lines into the ballet, and I would dream of being a performer. Over the years, as I got older, I became more rebellious. Sometimes I would sneak out, and I was kind of bad. I would go down to all kinds of places with my friends in the village. When I grew up by Lincoln Center, I wasn't able to access all of the things that were on the Lower East Side. And I wasn't in a school that was enriching me culturally in that way. It was like I needed to myself up and go lick the ground for a couple of years to understand New York City and understand a whole different side of the pavement. In one way, I couldn't wait to get out. But in another way, it wasn't that I wanted to get out of New York, it's that I wanted to get deeper into New York. When I first moved down there, I just didn't have a lot of money to pay rent. I think it was $1,100 a month. And that was a lot of effing money to make. I go dance. I got a job as a waitress, and my dad paid half my month's rent for 3 months in a row until I got on my feet. And then he said, you have a year to make something happen, or I'm gonna make you go back to school.
What were you looking for?
I wanted to live alone, live in solitude with my music, and read poetry and be overly dramatic about everything. And that's what I did.
Do you remember what your first show was like?
Remember I had on a big white hippie skirt, a green tube top, and I put a flower in my hair. I played a bunch of songs that nobody knew. Didn't give a I did like an hour-and-a-half set. Isn't that funny? My first show, what was I thinking? An hour and a half? Who gives a Nobody knows who you are. I was so delusional. I play for an hour and a half now. I have songs people want to hear. But back then I just thought to myself, well, if I'm a real professional, I will give off the illusion of professionalism, like I know what I'm doing. Always after the show, someone would go, you got some pipes. You really got some pipes. Or I like that one song, Hollywood. I like that song. There's this one song in my head called Hollywood. Hollywood, Hollywood. And then I was like, I don't want to be stuck at the piano anymore. I want to dance. I want to do something a little bit more revolutionary for my neighborhood. So I thought, okay, so what is nobody doing? And that was when I met Lady Starlight. I'm like, I'm Lady Gaga. She goes, I'm Lady Starlight. But we're both ladies. We became friends. And I called her one day and I said, you know what would really piss me off? She said, what? I said, if there were 2 hot girls in bikinis playing pop music with synthesizers and turntables, dancing to heavy metal records in between each song. She goes, that would really piss me off. Let's do it. We used to light Hairspray on fire. And we would get in so much trouble, Lord Jesus. I remember at the knitting factory, we were opening up for the semi-precious weapons. And the promoter was like, you f***ing hookers! Do you want to burn the place down? And we're listening to Metal Militia by Metallica. We were laughing backstage. We were like, oh no, we're never going to get to play the knitting factory again. And then I said to her, or they will never forget us. There was one moment when I thought we were onto something. We performed at Rockwood Music Hall. It's teeny tiny. It fits 30 people in it. There's this really little stage. Barely fit our stuff on it. And our turntables, we didn't have a lot of money, so they were like those really ones that if you even breathe on them, they skip. This was like super inexpensive, but nobody on the Lower East Side was doing anything even remotely like it. In fact, it was kind of uncool to be doing it, so it became cool because we were the only people doing anything like it, and we would plug in all these crazy party favors, and we would throw glitter, and we would dance in matching bikinis that cost us $4 to make. And I got dub plates pressed in Brooklyn with my beats on them, so she would spin the dub plates. I remember we were wearing Iron Maiden t-shirts. We'd made these hot pink fluorescent headbands. We were posed like this, and our song by Heavy Metal Kids, Hey Little Girl, came on. You got what it takes, you know what I want. And we used to just freestyle and try to match each other. We used to sometimes say we were a pop burlesque show. And I'll never forget it. I was in the middle of singing my song, Blueberry Kisses, Blueberry Kisses. My lips, they misses, oh yeah. And Colleen looked over at me and she goes, psst, Gaga. I looked at her and she goes, look outside. I looked outside and there was like at least 100 people in the streets with cameras out, staring through the window. She looked at me and she goes, something's happening. I don't know what it is, but something is happening. And I just kept playing. I just remember my dad came and he got really, really upset. And he didn't talk to me for weeks.
What was that like?
I remember feeling really sad, and I remember feeling really misunderstood, and I remember feeling like I'd let him down. But then I also remember thinking to myself, someday he will understand why I did all of this. And I was right.
So Gaga, you gotta tell me, where does all this inspiration come from?
I became so obsessed with the poetry of and the spirit of rock and roll and how I could synthesize it into pop music. I mean, I was playing Boys, Boys, Boys with Lady Starlight when I was 20. I'm 25, I'm still playing it, except I'm playing it for 60,000 people in Mexico. It's completely mental. Lady Starlight always says to me, she says, you're a musician that happened to become a pop singer. But I always wanted to be a pop singer. That was the ultimate sort of dream come true for me, was that I would work endlessly towards this experience with music, with songwriting, with performance art, and how I could bridge fashion and technology and pop culture into one performance and then make it commercial and translate that idea, that very theatrical idea that so many people didn't understand. How could I translate that to the whole world? And that's why I never backed down, no matter how many radio people said I don't get it, no matter how many people said we're not sure that this show will play very well in the Midwest. I never backed down.
I didn't used to be brave. In fact, I wasn't very brave at all. But you have made me so brave. Tonight I want you to forget all of your insecurities. I want you to reject anyone or anything that's ever made you feel like you don't belong or don't fit in. Maybe you feel like you'll never get an A on that test, or you'll never win a Grammy, or you'll never win a record, you'll never
biggest surprise to me has been my relationship with my fans. They've changed my life. The fans are the thing that you can't learn. They were the instrument in the music that nobody taught me about. They're a giant disco ball, thousands of tiny little mirrors. The commercial success that I've had has been mind-blowing. I'm the girl that everyone said no and shook their head and said, I don't get it.
I believe, like, we need failure to succeed. I mean, I can't learn from success. I need to fail.
I remember when I got dropped from my first record label, I just said, Mommy, let's go see Grandma. And I cried on my grandmother's couch. She looked at me and she goes, I'm gonna let you cry for the rest of the day. And then you have to stop crying and you have to go kick some ass. I've never told Beyonce this, but I remember laying on my grandmother's couch crying, and a Destiny's Child video came on. And I remember watching Beyonce and thinking, oh, she's a star. I want that. I want to be on MTV. And now I'm in music videos with Beyonce. In a way, there was something liberating about leaving because I was able to define my individuality for myself. I think so much of what I do as an artist is about that. From first to second and out of the third album, a lot of the sort of major theme that's carried through all three of them is that I define my own fame, I define my own existence, I define my own identity, I define my own beauty for myself. No one can define who you are. I'm a perpetual underdog. When I was in high school, I remember once some of the girls from my class, they were hanging out with some boys that I knew also. And I went to meet some friends for some pizza that were at the same pizzeria. And the boys picked me up and threw me in the trash can. On the street, on the corner of my block, while all the other girls from the school were leaving and could see me in the trash. And everybody was laughing, and I was even laughing. I had that nervous giggle. And I just remember like holding back the tears and the lip quivering and don't let them see you. And I remember even one of the girls looking at me like, are you about to cry? You're pathetic. That's what it felt like. You're pathetic. Are you about to cry? And I remember I didn't tell anybody. That's what I remember. I remember I didn't tell anybody. I remember I didn't want to tell my parents because it was too embarrassing. I think it didn't sink in with me how bullying affected me until later in my life. I knew that it affected me deeply, but it wasn't until a little bit later that I realized how much it affected me and how much it was still very present. I think it took me to get to know my fans and to see similar struggles in them for me to access that wound in myself. And I think that, in a way, the fans have been a key to my heart, unlocking things about myself that I didn't want to handle or deal with or address that make me a greater songwriter.